case y'all wondering why we're waiting, we cannot start until 4:30. It's 4:29, so just bear with me. Let's call this work session order. Roll call, please.
Kurt Smith,
Here.
Gustafson,
Here.
Perry,
Here.
J.R. Smith.
Here.
Ms. Brabner's participating remotely when she gets back, and Mayor.
I am here, as always. We'll go over the agenda first, and then we'll move into some presentations that need to be made, and I think we will need an executive session at the tail end of this thing. Under announcements, the Spanish Fort Community Center and Library will be closed Saturday, July 3rd and Monday, July 5th for the Independence Day holiday. The City Council meeting normally scheduled for the first Monday of the month will be held on Tuesday, July 6th at 6 o'clock. There'll be a City Council work session on July 1st at 4:30 here at the Community Center to continue discussion on the revision to the city sign ordinance. If y'all want to come for that, it's really entertaining. No old business. Under new business, we'll have our audits. Mr. Smith is questioning what I'm doing, so y'all. First items on our agenda are our annual audits for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2020 for the City of Spanish Fort, the 181 facility, and the 98 facility. Did any of the council have any questions or discussions on that? The audits came back clean, perfect, and Mary Lynn's glad they are, and she's through with them. So, any discussion from anybody? Okay, moving on. I have ordinance number 585, 2021, an ordinance establishing towing and recovery rotation services regulations to the City of Spanish Fort. Mr. Connor.
Mayor, this is an ordinance establishing towing and recovery rotation services within the City of Spanish Fort. It would establish a rotation for first responders, police to contact tow truck operators that meet the permit and insurance requirements to be included on the list. It also includes the type of trucks and equipment that are required based on the gross vehicle weight being used, and also establishes the fees and charges that can be charged for services based on these types of calls. If you recall, in Section 16 at the last work session, we had some discussion regarding the distances required based on the maximum prices that were being charged. And so what we, I think, ended up on was that they would be required to tow from a location in Spanish Fort to any other location in Spanish Fort or within 5 miles of the corporate limits for those maximum charges that are established. And so those limitations have been placed in the appropriate locations within Section 16 of the ordinance. Otherwise, it remains in the same state in terms and conditions as of the last work session.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Mayor, can you hear us all right now? Is it better? Good. Any discussion from the council on this item? As Mr. Connor mentioned, the only change, we did look at the radius of mileage from our city limits. 3 miles didn't quite take us far enough down to include some, some repair shops and some automobile dealers and things like that. So we want to make sure that our citizens got the best bang for their buck. So.
That's under number 6 in that section.
16.
Number 6 in section 16.
There's multiple places where that occurs.
Okay.
Basically, after every charge, we say that it has to be within that time, that location.
Okay.
Any further discussion? I will ask for a motion on that item tonight. We introduced it at the last meeting. Moving to ordinance number 586, 2021, an ordinance regulating an abandoned, junked, and on non-operating vehicles within the City of Spanish Fort. Mr. Connor.
Mayor, in accordance with Alabama Code Section 32-13-1, this ordinance would regulate abandoned, junked, or non-operative vehicles within the City of Spanish Fort, establishes how and under what circumstances a vehicle is deemed to be abandoned, and provides police the opportunity to deal with that vehicle, including but not limited to impounding. There have been no changes to this ordinance since the last discussion.
I don't recall any comments on this during our work session after we introduced it. Anybody have any further comments on this item? Here again, I will ask for a motion on this ordinance tonight. Moving to ordinance number 587, 2021, an ordinance establishing terms for Chairman Pro Tem temporary of the City Council. Mr. Connor?
As you'll recall, in the last legislative session, the Alabama legislature passed an act that would require that certain elections be held on the same date as general elections for state and national offices. As a result, the term of office for this city council will be extended by 1 year. So instead of serving a 4-year term, you all will be serving a 5-year term based on the passage of that act. This is an amendment to the Chairman Pro Tem schedule that you all adopted at your organizational meeting, and based on that, each one of you will serve a term as Chairman Pro Tem for roughly a period of 1 year.
Is there any provision to get time off for good behavior?
Have you had
It's
any?
possible. It's possible to be paroled from this sentence. No, it's a great honor to serve, and it is interesting in the history of the state. I'd be surprised if there's ever been a situation where someone's office has been extended this way, but it has happened to you guys. So instead of getting 4 years, you get 5. So.
Okay, any discussion on that item? Mr. Smith, you're doing an outstanding job as the current chairman. We appreciate how you fill in when
Mayor,
needed. He's been very receptive to that.
And I may have misspoke. I think I said the purpose was to align it with the national election cycle. I think it was to get the local elections off the national election cycle. In any event, the result is that you all have one more year term.
All right, any further discussion? We'll ask for a motion on that also. Ordinance, we'll have ordinance number 588, 2021, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement between the city, the Baldwin County Commission, the Planning Commission of the City of Spanish Fort concerning the exercise of subdivision regulations within the planning jurisdiction of the City of Spanish Fort Planning Commission. Mr. Connor.
Mayor, also in the last legislative session, the legislature passed bill, I think it's SB 107, to amend 11-40-10, which is the police jurisdiction provisions of the statute, which basically sets forth the police jurisdictions outside the corporate limits of a municipality. If you have 6,000 or more inhabitants, it's 3 miles. 6,000 or less inhabitants, it's 1.5 miles. However, as of July 1, I think 2023, it will be reduced to 1.5 miles for all municipalities after that date. Also, they amended 115230, which basically establishes the jurisdiction of the Municipal Planning Commission to regulate the subdivisions of property outside the corporate limits of the city. That's subdivisions of property only. And that aligns up, at least initially, with the 1.5 mile police jurisdiction. But again, I believe it's July 1, 2023, that will be 1.5 miles unless otherwise agreed to by the county and the city. It's my understanding that we have a meeting with Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Joe Davis. He's chairman now? Okay, Chairman Joe Davis from the Baldwin County Commission tomorrow to discuss the proposed agreement and the boundaries. We all talked about those potential boundaries at the last work session, and you'll recall that this agreement has to be approved by the City Council, by ordinance, by resolution by the Planning Commission, and by resolution by the County Commission. So since we don't have any boundaries, this is just being introduced tonight to get us off and out of the gate. When we come back to you in the next meeting, we're hopeful to have some boundaries and some maps and legal descriptions that everyone feels comfortable with.
As Mr. Connor mentioned, we're meeting with Commissioner Davis tomorrow to go over what we discussed at the work session. And just to bring you roughly back up to speed, it's 1.5 miles up the western side, northern side, unless it's protected by another city's boundaries, which would be the equal distance law. And then we come down 5931 to just north of Stapleton and cut it off to protect the Stapleton people who want their own areas, and we understand that scenario. And then just south of there, picking it up, basically at Bromley Road, moving through 31 all the way back to our city boundaries. I think that's what we talked about.
So we were able to eliminate legally the Stapleton community.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
They're meeting tomorrow on that, is what my understanding he just said.
That's what we hope to accomplish. That's the purpose of getting this introduced tonight. We may have a special call meeting. We already have one on July 1st for the sign ordinance. If everything goes to what we hope, we may bring something to have a special call meeting to address this particular ordinance. Any further discussion? Moving to Resolution 1152, 2021, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a contract for services between the city of Spanish Fort and local government corporation. Mr. Connor?
Mayor, this is a proposed agreement to retain the services of local government corporation for the purchase, installation, development, management, maintenance, and support of certain custom payroll, purchasing, and accounting software for the city of Spanish Fort. A copy of the proposed agreement is attached as Exhibit A. There's an initial software installation cost and expense that will be required, and then after that, it will be a monthly or annual fee for those services to be provided.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Any discussion from the council? This was part of our budget process to update and upgrade all of our systems within the city to bring us a little bit up to speed. Something we talked about at length during the budget process, a very costly endeavor, but it's certainly needed. I will ask for a motion on that item tonight also.
This actually is at a lower rate than we were currently paying, isn't it?
The yearly cost is slightly lower. There is, of course, an upfront charge for the
Right.
software, and we will be bringing to the council a server upgrade as part of this. Our current city server is much in need of replacing and upgrading as it is, and this company requires a few little tweaks and things, so we had budgeted previously in this budget for a new server. Lance is pricing that out for us in the next few weeks.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Moving to Resolution 1153, 2021. Resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a contract for services between the city of Spanish Fort and Harbor Communications LLC. Mr. Connor?
Mayor, this will be a new contract with Harbor Communications LLC for the provision of voice over internet services, telephone and communication services for the city of Spanish Fort. A copy of the proposal is attached as Exhibit A, subject to any changes deemed necessary by the mayor. They have agreed to a one-year term with options to renew. There are a few items that we will need to correct and address before the mayor signs, but it is in form for your consideration tonight.
Any discussion from the council?
And I can inform the council that these, per line, this is a much lower rate than what we're paying now.
Moving to Resolution 1154, 2021. A resolution authorizing them execute a contract for services between the city of Spanish Fort and Precision Concrete Cutting. Mr. Connor?
Mayor, this is a contract to retain the services of Precision Concrete Cutting to remove concrete trip hazards and other issues related to sidewalk, to try in an effort to ensure ADA compliance and to deal with uneven sidewalk places. The number of estimated repairs are 142 locations with 504 linear feet for a total of cost of $10,169.25. And a copy of that proposal is attached to Exhibit A, subject to any changes deemed necessary by the mayor.
Any discussion? As you know, we'll continue this program to move our sidewalks to be all ADA accessible and passable, for lack of a better term. So this is a continuation. This particular group, we do them in groups to keep them more economical. This particular group of 142 is all located within the Spanish Fort Estates area.
So it says that the project's got to be scheduled within 30 days. Did they give any estimate on how long the actual work would take?
Chester, you know how long it's 2 or 3 week project? All right, any other discussion? Moving to Resolution 1156, 2021, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a contract for street resurfacing of portions of Cora Slocum, Lackawanna Court, Rhett Drive, and Tanager Lane. Mr. Connor?
Mayor, the lowest responsive bidder for this contract was Asphalt Services, Inc. This is for the construction and resurfacing of Cora Slocum Drive, Lackawanna Court, Rhett Drive, and Tanager Lane. A copy of the proposed agreement is attached as Exhibit 1, and the total amount of the contract price bid was $154,335. The contract is subject to any changes deemed necessary by the mayor.
I will say this, for the first bid we've had this year, this one came in under budget.
Wow.
Every other bid we've had this year has been substantially higher than everything. I was really surprised and happy. Doesn't mean there's a surplus, Chief Barber, for you to go spend, but, because we do have engineering costs that goes on top of this, but,
Yeah, I was gonna ask, does that also include the issue that we've got on Rhett Drive?
The what now?
That's,
Yes.
The drainage issue, okay.
Yes, that's part of the Rhett Drive
Yes.
scope. Okay. Any other discussion? This is the first reading, will be on your next agenda. All right, exercise subdivision regulation, planning jurisdiction.
That one we've done, Mayor. That's the one that your script and mine had it before it became a resolution.
I knew that
We just
we'd
have to
already
do
done
the,
that, but it's
we have to
somehow
do the liquor
on my
license.
agenda. Okay. We do have a request for a 020 restaurant retail liquor license, Rail House Enterprises, doing business as Humble Pie Pizza Company, 2900 Bass Pro Drive. Mr. Connor?
Mayor, it's my understanding that this is a transfer license regarding the tap station location. The transfer is, the current licensee is Hotbox Spanish Fort LLC. The new applicant is Rail House Enterprises LLC. And it's my understanding that Rail House operates under, is the applicant with the trade name Humble Pie Pizza Company. And they're asking for a transfer license to continue the operation at that location.
Any discussion from the council?
The applicant is the current owner of Blues Burger up there, if that helps you know who that is.
Okay, anything else from the council? If not, I'm gonna ask Coach Blackman, Athletic Director Blackman. He has asked for a few minutes of our time. I told him he had 15 minutes, and I'm sure this crowd came behind him. So, Coach, I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Mayor and City Council, for allowing me to come and present to you tonight some of the things that's going on the Hill and ask for your support. Mary, I know you can't be here tonight, but you're listening. My prayers are with you as you battle that, and we hope that you're back with us. I have in attendance with me several coaches from the high school. I see Coach Pruitt, Coach Milam, our trainer, Coach Hall, Coach Countryman, Coach Nard, Coach Hickson. Am I missing anybody else out here? Coach Mitchell is back there. These are all our coaches. This is a unified effort that we're coming today to present with you. We also have many parents and supporters of our program. We all know that when things take place athletically at our facilities, it's a big deal. Whether it's a soccer game or a baseball game or softball or football or track event, it's a big deal. It's a big deal not only to our community, it's a big deal to our coaches, and it's a big deal to our kids. And so what we wanted to do is to put together an improvement plan to make that a big deal on what we call Champions Hill. If you'll go to the next slide, I think it's very important that as we reflect on the first part of Spanish Fort High School's history, we talk about the success in all the sports and athletics at Spanish Fort High School. And as you walk in and you see the blue maps and the red maps, finishing first or second in the state, I think anybody would be hard-pressed to argue of the success in the short period of time that our high school and athletics has had in all sports. If you look at this list, we've been to the finals in just about every sport in the history of our school, and winning several state championships, as you've seen the signs below. But I think it's important that as we move forward, as we face the growth that's coming to Baldwin County, that we really start looking with a vision of how do we sustain this? How do we continue to give our kids the resources that are needed? I think they're getting, excellent academics. I think they're getting excellent coaching. I think we are limited some in our facilities, space-wise and growth-wise, and we're limited land mass-wise. And so being very smart about what we're wanting to do with the limited amount of land mass that we have, it's very important to look at that. Some of the things that we as coaches in our program are limited with, number one is we're limited for space when we run team workouts. Our weight room right now is a 2,400 square foot weight room. It has 12 racks. Each time a team goes into lift, you basically do 4 people at a rack is the maximum that you can really get in there space-wise. And so you're looking at 48 kids. Well, several of our teams that lift weights and train in this area well exceed that number of kids in their program. Baseball has over 60. Our soccer programs are carrying around 50. Track and cross country are above 50. Our football programs at 130. Softball, when you look at all levels of our program, we've got high numbers. So we're having to split up our workouts and try to figure out how can we get everybody what they need weight room wise in a short amount of time and all not be on top of each other, because there's every sport that has to use that same space. So that's the number one issue there. Also, anytime there's inclement weather, coaches are forced to basically cancel practice. They're forced to, if there's any type of availability, which is hard pressed from a gym space because you have so many gym sports that are going on. I'll give you an example. The last 2 years in the first round of the playoffs, it has been torrential downpour all week from a football standpoint. But it's also basketball season and it's also volleyball season. So the gym space is not available oftentimes. So from a football standpoint, we're looking for places to get in and still practice and prepare our players for the games on Friday night. And we don't have that facility there on campus. We have loaded kids on buses, driven across to Mobile, to South Alabama, use their indoor facility. We had to drive to Bay Minette High School, to Baldwin County High School to use their facilities. We've even ventured down to Foley to use their facilities, as you'll see as we go through. A couple of other things is lockers. With all of the sports, male sports, and with the new addition, which we're so grateful for, of the female field house and weight room and locker room in there, we are still limited locker-wise. We have 75 lockers in our locker room. And like I said, that's not every kid getting a locker on the football team, baseball team, soccer, from the male sports. We'll have 100 lockers in the new facility for the female athletes, which is going to be wonderful. Storage is limited on the hill. We have to store our equipment down in the main building, the new addition down there, because we have no equipment storage rooms there. There's also no room for you to have a team meeting outside of being in the weight room. If someone's using the weight room, if a team is using the weight room, then you have no source of having a classroom team meeting area, because they're in there using that. And that's the largest space that we have in our facility. Also, there are we're very limited on coaches' office space in the existing facility. There's one office downstairs and 3 offices upstairs for coaches. But when you carry a coaching staff as large as our teams, from the football and baseball and soccer, and those guys need a place to call home and to set their stuff and be able to work in those things. If you'll go to the next slide, Chester. This is a look at the competition just here in Baldwin County and around. So I just kind of want to throw these pictures out to you and give you a visual representation of these are the teams that our athletes are competing against and what they're able to work out in, what their facilities look like in their communities, and the advantages that they have over our kids. That was Fairhope. Here's Bay Minette High School's indoor facility. It's 35 yards long, so you can get multiple teams in there. If you'll go to the next one, this is Foley. Foley has a 40-yard indoor facility with also weight room space for 25 weight racks. If you'll go to the next one. This is probably our biggest competition, being that we're a 6A school. Saraland, as you know, 12 years ago decided to go city school system. They've been pouring their money into not only the academics but the athletics. They just built this $3.2 million facility. It's a canopy style facility. These are some pictures of it as we flip through. I'll be glad to leave this PowerPoint. Chester has this PowerPoint. This is their coach's office. This is their weight room that looks out to their indoor facility. Maybe as you go through, another look here. As you see in the top right corner right here, they also have drop-down cages for their baseball, softball teams to use in inclement weather. And in speaking to their head coach and athletic director at Saraland, he said, you know, they had a big storm come through in the spring, and they actually had 3 sports at one time in this facility still being able to work during the weather. They had baseball, they had softball, and they had track that were able to work inside this facility during the inclement weather. And so that was a big bonus. Here's their locker room that they have built. As you can keep flipping through the facility. These are that's their training room. They have a cold tub for athletes when they come in for ice baths, things like that. And then just another picture of their weight room. Then they spent $3.2 million on that, and then they just came out with an announcement, if you'll keep going, Chester, that they're spending another $3.4 million on a state-of-the-art track facility at Saraland High School. And these are pictures of their track facility that's going to be built there at Saraland. It will be state-of-the-art facility. They also have just approved turfing their softball and baseball fields, so that weather, there's no more rainouts. There's lightning, but once the rain stops, you can continue to play, and the fields will be playable conditions. Go ahead. Just some other things around the state that we've seen. Enterprise, they've got a brand new playing surface. Oxford High School, who is another 6A program up in North Alabama, has really invested in their athletic facilities, their stadium, their weight room renewals, their indoor facilities. Go ahead, Chester. As we see just locally recently, the city of Daphne has supported Coach King's effort to turf their field, the center of their field. So that'll be coming up at the end of this season. They'll tear it all up and turf it for 2022. Tuscaloosa County High School just improved their weight room facility, their stadium. So there's a lot of schools that are really in communities. This is their new weight room facility that are really, really pouring into their high school and athletic wise. Okay, so our solution, based on the space that we have, that we feel like can help us in terms of giving us the facilities that we need to support all of our athletic sports there on the hill. If you'll go to the next slide, is to make an addition to the current facility of a 5,000 square foot weight room with a pavilion. As you see here, looking right here on the visitor side entrance of the stadium. So there would be a pavilion right there. It would give us an indoor, there's kind of a footprint of it, give us an indoor turf area based off the space that we have, plus 25 racks, which means that you could work out 100 kids at a time. This would allow us, with the addition to this field house, this would allow us to take the current locker room and, the current weight room and turn it into a locker room and add another 70 to 80 lockers in there to get us to 150 lockers in that facility. The locker room now would become a classroom sitting space where you could meet with your team separately from the locker room area or the weight room area. And it would also allow us to revamp the other side of the weight room now that the girls' field house will be being built. Would give us some more storage and training room and showers as well on that side. And these are just some drawings for you to kind of look at that we had. I'm not real sure why that's in there upside down. But this is just what it looks like when one team's in the weight room. As you can tell, it's very, very crowded. There is a danger there with weights and with the COVID this past year, we had to limit the number of kids that could come in at a certain time. All of that took a factor on us and how much we as coaches could work out in this facility. Other things that need to be done in addition to this facility, if you'll go to the next slide, number one is it's time to resurface our track. That project is going to be somewhere between $100,000 to $150,000. That's a quote that I got to resurface it. And that would probably last us another 10 years, 8 to 10 years from what I was told. Weight room equipment we would need, update to the press box. We would love to put better fencing around the whole facility to really give it a sense of pride. Also currently enclosing the field house, the eaves. Look at doing something with the space underneath the home side stands as storage. Fixing some of the seating in the stadium. Adding a track facility. The track facility that we have now is weathered pretty bad. It really needs to be pushed down, and we put something new there. And then all of our baseball, softball, and stadium need new scoreboards. That's about 75. Our baseball, softball, we actually need a new press box at those facilities. So these are all things that, if I had to give you a line item list, hey, we need this. These are things that we've talked about, we've discussed as coaches that we need to maintain the success and to be able to give our kids the experience that they deserve when they play for Spanish Fort, and the red and black and the Toros, and whatever they run out on the field and compete for our town, our community, our schools. We need this to be successful and to continue on where we're at. I know if you saw that they're expecting 65% growth in the next 15 to 25 years in Baldwin County. Well, when those people are moving to Baldwin County and it's growing, they're going to pick Spanish Fort, Daphne, Fairhope, now Gulf Shores, Orange Beach with their additions to their schools, and those communities pouring into the youth. And I encourage you to really, really pray about this and think about the impact you would have on our kids and our community by investing in them in this project. We're not opposed to having skin in the game at all. We feel like that from a community standpoint, we could raise somewhere between the 300 to 500 mark, 1,000 mark to put towards this project. And I say that pretty confident in talking to people in our community who would support this and get behind it, and put some of their personal money into it, so that our parents and kids have pride and skin in the game from that standpoint. We couldn't obviously do this entire project. I mean, you're looking at probably $3 to $3.5 million for the whole thing. You know, as you make those projections, and our community being so new, being small, our teams still have to fundraise to maintain their program needs right now. So going out and hitting the businesses in our community, we really don't have that availability or that avenue to go out and say, hey, you know, can you support this for $1 million or whatnot in our community? Are there some donors out there that would give some money in pretty good chunks? Yes, they are. However, we can't take away from our individual teams fundraising to get what they need to run a successful season. So that's why we're here, because we're asking you guys to really strongly consider getting behind some of these projects and improvements. And like I said, you know, this is a community effort. This is not just a handout from the city. This is a community effort that we want to all get behind, and we want to see come to fruition for our kids, our youth that are coming up. We want to give them the best chance. We want them to feel a sense of pride in being a Spanish Fort Toro, and no matter what athletic field they run out on, and have the adequate needs to be successful. And you know, I told our coaches, you know, I showed them a video, and I just kind of leave you with this. If you take an oak seed and you put it in a 2-foot pot, that oak seed will never grow to be the oak tree that it needs to be, because it doesn't have the resources. It's limited to its environment. But if we become the environment for these kids, and we put them in a forest where they can grow and thrive with the facilities and all the stuff they need, they'll grow to be the oak tree that they need to be. And so I'm challenging you guys as a city council to get behind this and support this for the youth in our community, our school, to kind of change the paradigm shift of where we're at and where we're going to. Let's be a city council. Let's be a community that operates like a city school system within a county school system based. You know, we just basically lease the school system from the Board of Education, if that makes sense. We're pouring all our money into every facet that we can in the Board of Education's youth. And so I just challenge you to do that. I thank you for your time in getting behind this. I think you see behind me there's a lot of support for this in all of our programs. And, you know, I can answer any questions that any of you may have. Would love to sit down and talk with any of you.
Thank you, Coach Blackman, for bringing this to us. We appreciate all your work you put in it. I know a lot of people have been involved in that. I appreciate your vision about where you would like to see things be. And it's not a Coach Blackman thing, it's a community thing. So we will look at this. Chester, you have that, and we'll need to run some copies to discuss during the budget process. I know this council is going to have a lot of questions, okay? First of all, timetables, you know, you mentioned skin in the game. That's a very important factor with this council. A few things you brought up that I'll always, and I mentioned this to you, I do believe that the track should be a function of the Baldwin County Board of Education to repair, but I also know how the Baldwin County Board of Education works. It doesn't always, they don't always do what we ask them to do. But it is an opportunity.
Mayor, that goes back to my train of thought that if we wait around for the county to do it, our city, our community will never see it done. We got to do it from our city.
Yeah, and the city has proven, as you know, and I think everybody in this room knows, that those facilities were built by the city of Spanish Fort. Every piece of it, every dollar of it, other than track shed and some things that were built by some of the parents. I shouldn't say every bit of it, but probably 95, 99% of it was built by the city. And it's because the way Baldwin County Board of Education goes to business. They don't build facilities for schools, the cities, the boosters, all those people. If you want to have them, the city, that's the only way it's going to work. But I thank you. Questions from the council? I'm sure there's few. There will be a lot more, I'm certain.
I'd say the one thing that I would wonder, like you said, we're about to be addressing our budget for the next year here in the next month or so, I guess, Mr. Mayor. I hadn't seen an invite yet, but in any case, is there a priority list on the bigger list of budgets? If you could provide that as well, what are the top priorities and which are not? You know, take on the whole thing is pretty ambitious. I mean, our budget's roughly $10 million a year. So to do a $3.5 million buy, you know, that's going to take away from these two guys or some other projects. So either we're going to end up borrowing a lot of money and paying it back, which is not necessarily unthinkable, or we're going to work it in and, you know, one chunk a year or whatever. And so when we get that, I know you said you'd provide that list to Chester, if we could maybe get what are the top priorities and what are second and third priorities.
Absolutely, and I had already mentioned with the mayor about that, and in terms of the funding and knowing that a big ticket line item, you know, is something to consider. But what if you spread this out over 10 years and said, you know what, for the athletic department in their facilities and improving their facilities over 10 years, we're gonna give $250,000 a year for the 10-year period, or, you know, whatever, you know, that number becomes, as a way to think about 10 years down the road, where do we want to be?
Anyone else? Thank you, Coach. Appreciate you taking the time and effort to do that, and it will be considered during the budget process. I feel certain you'll probably be asked back to another meeting to discuss further. Okay, moving back to the council work session. A few items I want to bring the council up to speed on. I did get a note from our city clerk this afternoon that our American Rescue Plan has been accepted by the state. We still don't have a feel about what that dollar number is. It's somewhere between 1.71 million and 2.17 million or something. It's a moving target, and we still, while we have a general idea about what will qualify for this money to be used for, there are some seminars coming up that we will be attending as a council to bring you up to speed on that, okay? Let y'all all know, please, this meeting is being recorded. It will be broadcast at a later date. Hence, this is the last test before we go full bore on everything. As David mentioned, meetings with the County Commission tomorrow. I want to bring you up to speed on also a couple other opportunities that we have, including some Go Mesa situations and some other opportunities we have. Is there anything else the council wanted to discuss before we went into executive session for a little while?
How are we working with the policies integrating the fire department into the city? Is that still progressing along so we can hit a timeline at some point?
We plan on presenting that in your budget for this year. We met with Chief Few last week and nailing out some details. There's going to be a lot of little intricate details to be worked out, but my plan is in this budget cycle to come October 1 to make that conversion.
Great, thank you.
Pending any COVID or anything crazy coming
We're
up.
not doing that again.
Okay, me either. Okay, anything else anybody want to discuss before we go into executive session? Mr. Connor?
Mayor, I make the recommendation the city council go into executive session in accordance with Alabama Code Section 36-25A7, A1, to discuss the general reputation and character, physical condition, professional competence, or mental health of individuals, or subject to the limitations set out therein, to discuss the job performance of certain public employees. Also, in accordance with Section 3, to discuss the legal ramifications of and legal options for pending litigation, controversies not yet being litigated but imminently likely to be litigated, or imminently likely to be litigated if the governmental body pursues proposed course of action. Also, in accordance with Section 6, to discuss the consideration the governmental body is willing to offer or accept when considering the purchase, sale, exchange, lease, or market value of real property. It is anticipated the executive session will last approximately
30 minutes.
30 minutes, at which time you'll reconvene this city council work session. I make the oral declaration that the discussion is appropriate for executive session.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Kurt Smith?
Here, yes.
Gustafson?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
J.R. Smith?
Yes.
Mayor?
Here. Mary, we will bring you up to speed on what we discussed, Mr. Connor or myself or both of us, so you're in complete loop on that, okay? Okay. Leave it alone.
Is your internet frozen, Mary?
Don't even sit down. We'll call this work session back to order. There is one corrective issue we need to take care of prior to going to executive session. Mr. Connor?
Yes, Mayor, there was one more item that I inadvertently left out. So we will be going into executive session in accordance with Alabama Code Section 36-25A7A1, discuss the general reputation, character, physical condition, professional competence, or mental health of individuals, subject to limitations set out therein to discuss the job performance of certain public employees, in accordance with Section 3, to discuss with the attorneys the legal ramifications of and legal options for pending litigation, controversies not yet being litigated but eminently likely to be litigated, or eminently likely to be litigated if the government or body pursues a proposed course of action. Also, in accordance with Section 4, to discuss security plans, procedures, assessments, measures, or systems, or the security or safety of persons, structure, facilities, including without limitation matters that would be subject to, if subject to public disclosure, could reasonably be expected to be detrimental to public safety or welfare, and also to discuss the consideration the government body is willing to offer, except when considering the purchase, sale, exchange, lease, or market value of real property. This meeting should last approximately 30 minutes. I make the oral declaration that the discussion is appropriate for executive session.
Have a motion?
Second.
Roll call.
Kurt Smith? Gustafson? Perry?
Yes.
J.R. Smith?
Yes.
Mayor?